Previously on Beyond the Lens. We'll be continuing, in a sense, to look at high schoolers keeping secrets and leading double lives. We'll be discussing PJ's pick of Hannah Montana.
Woohoo!
Are you nostalgic, a parent, or perhaps a child at heart? When it comes to children's media, from books to TV shows, and even movies, there's often more than meets the eye. Is it well written? Does it still hold up today? What works and what doesn't? Or maybe you wonder what went on behind the scenes of that work. Together, a trio of adults who are also kids at heart will critique and comment on one piece of children's media each episode.
Hello, this is Eric.
Hi, I'm PJ.
And I'm Rico. You're listening to Beyond the Lens, a family-friendly podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Beyond the Lens. As always, my name is PJ, and I'm joined by Rico.
Hey, everyone.
And of course, if you need a reminder, since it's been a while, or if you're brand new to our podcast, our third co-host, Eric, is unfortunately not a part of our show this season, but we hope he's doing well. So hope you're doing well, Eric. For now, we are reviewing and discussing another Disney Channel show that basically had a chokehold on most people that watched it. And of course, I'm talking about Hannah Montana, including the slight change to season 4, also known as Hannah Montana Forever, and the movie. So Rico, on a scale of 1 to 10, how familiar are you with Hannah Montana?
Probably an 8 or 9. I've seen the show. I don't think I've seen every episode, but I know I saw pretty much the entire 4th season, as well as a lot of the earlier seasons as well. But I am very familiar with it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a show that I think most people know. If you haven't seen it, then I will say you have been living under a rock. Now, as always, let's give a little bit of a background to the show for those that are somehow not familiar with it or just need a refresher. And we'll start with plot of the show. Miley is a regular, everyday girl who is secretly a pop sensation. Hannah Montana. She moves from Tennessee to California to advance in her career. Miley hides her true identity by wearing a blonde wig and flashy clothes. And for most of her career, she is successful in hiding the fact that she's Hannah. But as the show progresses, it becomes more difficult to hide this secret. And eventually, by the end of the series, spoiler alert, she reveals to the world that she is Hannah Montana and then officially retires as Hannah, drops her career, and she attends college with her best friend throughout the series, Lily. The show stars Miley Cyrus as Hannah Montana, the title character, and both in real life and on the show, Miley is the daughter of Billy Ray Cyrus, or Robbie Ray, as he's called on the show. He is most well known in real life for his 90s country hit Achy Breaky Heart. In the show, it's very similar, and it's also written that Miley's mom passed away in the show, so Robbie Ray retires from his career, also as a country star, to raise Miley and her older brother. Also on the show, we have Emily Osment, who plays Miley's best friend Lily, who initially doesn't know that Miley is Hannah, but finds out within the first season that she is Hannah. Then she also gets in on the game and starts dressing up and wearing wigs so she can also camouflage as Hannah's best friend, known as Lola. We also have Mitchell Musso playing Oliver, who is another friend of Miley and Lily's and doesn't find out about Miley's secret either until later on, then also adapts a fake name, Mike Stanley III. The last main character outside of the Stewart family is ironically a character named Rico, who is kind of the main antagonist, but also protagonist of the series. He has an on and off friendship with Miley's brother Jackson, who I'll introduce in a second, but Rico's always playing tricks on people while he runs an outdoor concession stand near the Stewart's house on the beach. But he's also friends with Miley, Lily, and Oliver. He is also the only main character who doesn't know of Miley's secret until the very end of the show. And finally, we have Jason Earls playing Jackson. In real life, Miley has 5 other siblings, but she has an older brother, a brother who's the same age, and an older sister. However, they're all half siblings in real life. She's the oldest of Billy Ray and Tish Cyrus's children, to which she's an older sister to brother Bryson. I'm sorry if I pronounced that name wrong. And her sister Noah, who followed Miley in her footsteps and is also a successful pop musician. But anyways, I don't believe Jackson is supposed to be based on any of her siblings. I think he's just supposed to be a representation of Miley having siblings in general. He basically serves as the comic relief of the show and is always making jokes, making people get hurt and acting and dancing silly. On the show, he's supposed to be a teenager, but Jason Earles was actually much older. According to the Hannah Montana wiki, Jason was 28 in the first season and was in his late 30s when the show ended. Why this happened, I have no idea, but I think he did an amazing job playing Jackson, and I really can't imagine anyone else playing him. Miley has a couple love interests throughout the show, and Oliver and Lily also eventually become a romantic couple towards the end of the show. Other than that, I don't think there are many reoccurring characters. Only ones that come to my mind are a pair of friends named Amber and Ashley who constantly are being mean to Miley and Lily in school. It's also ironic because they're both major fans of Hannah Montana. And when they find out that Miley is Hannah at the end of the series, they end up attending the same college and deny that they ever bullied her and act like they're Miley and Lily's best friends. Though I'm pretty sure Miley and Lily don't feel the same way. Throughout the show, there are also many guest stars that have come onto the show, including the Jonas Brothers, who at the time Miley briefly dated Nick Jonas. There's also Selena Gomez, Ashley Tisdale, Jesse McCartney, The Rock, Joey Fatone, Sterling Knight. I mean, there's like a whole list I'm looking at right now, and it's super long. And I think it's really interesting and engaging because that's probably why the show is so successful, is that there was always someone different on the show. It was something to look forward to, and it just made the whole plot more interesting because, Hannah Montana is famous in the show and all these other celebrities were on the show. So I thought that was really cool and really clever. And plus, there really wasn't a show with a plot like this. So I think that's why Hannah Montana was such a game changer in terms of kid shows. But out of all of these characters, Rico, do you have a particular character that you like on the show?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's probably stereotypical, but I probably would say Miley slash Hannah, just because she's like the driver of many of the stories. And I'll also add that the character Rico is nothing like me, and it drove me nuts growing up. People hearing my name is Rico whenever I introduce myself, and like, oh, so you're like Rico from Hannah Montana. I'm like, no.
I think I can attest to that. No, this Rico on the show was we'll call him a trickster. He was very clever at things and was definitely an antagonist of the show. And I mean, I can see why you were compared to him, but yeah, he was just unlike any character I've seen on a show before. And plus, he was much younger. I think he was like 10 years old when the series started. I can't really remember, or maybe he was even younger than that. I don't know, but I can attest to that. And I think I'll also have to agree too. Miley is definitely my favorite character. I didn't relate to her much growing up, but I do now since I'm trying to keep my public life and my personal life separate from each other. And yes, I can agree that it's very difficult. So I think I can understand her position a little bit more. But in terms of the show layout, there are 4 seasons, with the final season being advertised as Hannah Montana Forever, which confused a lot of people, including myself, because they thought, I guess we all thought that it was supposed to be a spin-off series, but in reality, they just decided to call the last season that because we all knew that it was indeed the last season of the show. I believe one of the reasons why it was advertised this way was because of multiple major changes to the season. The biggest one being that Mitchell Musso, aka Oliver, was filming another Disney Channel show, Pair of Kings, in which he stars as the main character along with Doc Shaw from Sweet Life on Deck. So he unfortunately had to leave Hannah Montana and is absent for the entire last season. Another big change also stems from the Hannah Montana movie, which takes place sometime between the end of the 3rd season and the beginning of the 4th season. The Hannah Montana movie, is a long story within itself. And before I dive into why it affected Hannah Montana Forever, Rico, have you seen the Hannah Montana movie? And if so, what did you think of it?
Well, actually, I have not seen the movie. I mean, I might have seen like a few previews of it, like when they were advertising it on Disney Channel, but I never actually sat down and watched the movie.
Okay, so if you haven't seen the movie, to summarize it real quickly, it's it's basically all about Miley's reality check and seeing how far she's come from living in Tennessee to the present. And it is kind of slightly based on her real life experience as well, since I think she is actually from Tennessee. And then she relocated to California to, of course, film Hannah Montana and like live her life there. So basically, she is forced to come to Tennessee by her dad so she can have this reality check and see where she currently is in her life. At first, she thinks she's going to New York to perform a concert as Hannah Montana, but then realizes when she gets off the plane that she's actually back in Tennessee and she's going to be performing a concert there. Throughout the movie, she reconnects with a bunch of people and other memories and realizes that Hannah's popularity has kind of taken over her own personality. So she starts to appreciate the more little things in life. And we also got some amazing songs out of that movie, including Hoedown, Throwdown, and The Climb, which I know The Climb actually charted on like the actual pop music charts. I'm not sure if Hoedown, Throwdown did or any of the other songs from the film, but The Climb was such a beautiful song that came out of that movie. And I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of the best movies that Disney Channel has ever produced, and it's highly underrated. I think it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend checking it out. It transitions from the movie into season 4 because as Miley comes back from Tennessee and kind of realizes all of this, she misses Tennessee and like horses and kind of like her former life. So they move into a ranch in Malibu in season 4. So the setting's different. And Lily moves in with her too. And this season was also more serious in tone since we all knew that this was the last season again. I remember watching the finale and like bawling my eyes out because the last season was done so perfectly. And it seemed like, I'm not sure if it was just me, but the camera quality was also much better. It didn't feel like the sitcom that we all started with. It felt like I was watching some kind of soap opera. Like it was just done so perfectly. I feel like it was one of the best things that Disney Channel ever produced. But like all shows, they like all good shows, I should say, it should or they eventually come to an end. And I think this is why this show has ended up in my top 10 saddest, but like best ending shows like of all time. Not just Disney Channel, but of all time. I really enjoyed how they put the last season together and how they led up to it too. Especially with the movie. So Rico, how do you feel or how did you feel when some of your favorite shows ended?
I guess it depends on which shows we're talking about. I like to sort of joke like as I was getting older, like whenever I say that this show is now my new favorite show, it always ends up getting canceled.
Oh no.
But then there's we can go on the different extremes. Like there's the one end where I just like well, it is what it is, and hopefully the final episode doesn't end on a cliffhanger. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Oh, then we can go way back to when I was like 9 or 10, when my favorite show, Zoom, which we talked about way back in the first episode of this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
when Zoom was canceled, I pretty much went into overdrive to the point where I was literally spamming emails to WGBH trying to get the show back on the air.
Yeah, I now that you mention it, I agree. Like when I really like a show, I'm like, "Oh, this is great. I can't wait for the next season." Gets canceled. Oh, why? It's really frustrating. But I'm really glad that it seems like this show was planned out very well and we all knew when the ending was coming, especially since outside of the show, it was very similar to how Miley was actually living her real life. So we had a feeling, oh yeah, like the ending's coming soon. But people are still asking for a sequel. In fact, I think there was supposed to be an idea for a sequel, kind of like a prequel, according to Billy Ray, where it shows the life of Miley prior to Hannah Montana. And I think they were supposed to start production around 2019 or 2020, but then of course COVID hit. Billy Ray is still interested in it, I think, but Miley wants nothing to do with it. I think she is completely, well, maybe not completely, but like kind of separated herself from Hannah at this point. So who knows if it's actually going to happen, but it's kind of cool that they at least thought of that. But I do agree that all the good shows, it seems to either have a great ending like this one where it's nicely planned out and it's perfect, or they just get straight up canceled. Yeah, I remember when we talked about Zoom and that was frustrating. I think what I should do when a show cancels is also spam other people's emails and say, why did you do this? And ban all together or get all together and spam people more. But I think with the way this show ended, I think it was perfect. I don't think there's much else that you can do about it, but who knows? I mean, only time will tell. But I do want to talk about this next thing a little bit too, because we covered it for iCarly a few episodes ago, and we mentioned how rough the entertainment industry is, more specifically, the acting industry can be on child stars like Jeanette McCurdy. For Hannah Montana, I thought the casting directors did an amazing job with casting Miley. I mean, she already nailed the role and, of course, captured our hearts and embraced the role as Hannah. But I also want to give props to the casting directors for choosing a child star that had already had some exposure to the spotlight. In addition to Miley, I think they also, and this was just recently revealed, they considered sisters AJ and Ali. I don't know how to say their last name, Michalka. I think, I don't know. Well, they considered both of them as well. And again, both of those sisters already had some idea of what fame was like. For Miley, Billy Ray Cyrus was already famous. And for those that don't know, country legend Dolly Parton is Miley's godmother, who, by the way, did appear in a few episodes of Hannah Montana as well. And even outside of the show, they were and still are super close. In fact, Miley just did a New Year's Eve special. And of course, Dolly made an appearance. I never thought I would ever hear her sing Wrecking Ball, but she nailed it. And their relationship is just so cool. I admire both of them so much. And I think it's just so cool that, you know, Miley's godmother is this country legend. But my point being, Miley already had this glimpse of what fame was like. And of course, I'm not saying that it made her entire journey easy. I don't think anyone's journey is going to be easy, but compared to child stars that just get thrown into everything without any warning or any guidance, I think Miley had a little bit more of an advantage and was overall more prepared for this lifestyle. And the fact that the show was already like so heavily I guess based on her real life. I noticed that like a lot of shows that tend to focus on people in real life, like they tend to do better, and like it's something that we all can relate to because it's the everyday struggles of this person. And it's nice to have a show that you can kind of see the person on screen and see the person off screen, but then again it also opens that person to more like vulnerability because you're watching their life like a reality show. So I also feel really bad for her at the same time too, because she's not just this child star from Disney Channel that is being controlled, but it's like at the same time she also has the pressure of like being this role model for so many people. And I think this is one reason why a lot of Disney Channel stars often rebel from Disney Channel or like have this period in their life where they are trying to find themselves still. So I just wish that, you know, these people who are working for these shows that are in control or managing the childhood stars, they would be more like understanding and more patient and gentle, because these child stars are still growing up, they're still learning about the world around them, and yet they're carrying this like heavy weight on their shoulders with being in a show, and they have a life outside the show too. So Rico, what do you think about all this?
Well, there's quite a few things. Well, first off, I don't know if this is true, but I heard somewhere that when Miley first auditioned for the show, she wanted the role of Lily, the best friend, not the main character who's also the pop star.
I think that's true. I think I heard that as well.
And then as far as the whole Disney rebellion, like I remember watching a YouTube video by a former Disney star. I forget her full name. I think her first name's Chrissy. She was on Even Stevens.
Oh yeah, I'm not familiar with that show.
Well, anyway, she was talking about like some of the contracts she had to sign when she was with Disney and how sort of controlling they were. I mean, it was to the point where, like, say someone was having a party at a rink, birthday party, and he was invited and wanted to go. Like, Disney wouldn't let them because if they got injured, then that would take away time for recovery that could be spent filming the show. And so
Mm.
there's a lot of that controlling aspect. And a lot of other things is like when you sign a contract, Disney sort of have to represent the brand of Disney in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of the times, I think some of these stars, when they do have this sort of rebellious streak that sort of goes against the brand, it's their way of trying to get out of the contract.
I don't remember which one of the Disney people said this, but I remember reading on the Wikipedia that they wanted Miley to have, quote, this wholesome image, like you said, for the brand of Disney Channel. But, they have to remember that Miley's a teenager. And when you've been dressing up as like a character that has a target audience of like 6-year-olds or preteens, like it's really hard to keep doing that. And I'm not sure if this is also true, but I remember like even so many years after the show, I don't know if it was on a podcast or if it was just through an interview, but Miley said she had a really hard time of separating herself from Hannah since it was her personality for so long. So it was really difficult for Miley to keep this image, yet at the same time, like figure out where she was in life. And I thought that was funny because that was pretty much the whole point of the Hannah Montana movie, but like it didn't apply to her real life as much as it, I guess, actually did, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it's just very hard for child stars to maintain their image, but at the same time, like experiment, and go out of their comfort zone and see who they are. So I really hope that there's some kind of change to this industry and how people treat child stars, because they have to remember that they're going to remember this for the rest of their life. I think a lot of people forget that we remember this stuff, and not me specifically, but like everyone remembers some kind of part of their childhood, whether it's good or it's bad. And I think a lot of people in the industry tend to forget that. So I really hope that there's a change soon and that we won't have to see this anymore, because it's really sad to witness too. And I think I want to end this episode with a positive topic. And that's how this show, as I mentioned earlier, was such a game changer for not just Disney Channel, but for all of the children's networks. I recently saw a YouTube video as well that covers all of this, but it basically stated that with the success of Hannah Montana and how both on the show and in real life, Miley was topping the charts both as Miley and Hannah Montana as well. She released an album as Hannah Montana. She released a debut album as Miley Cyrus, which I thought was really cool. And it prompted a lot of other shows to kind of have the same musical formula. One of the shows was Victorious, followed by Big Time Rush. And I'm sure there's more, but I can't. Those are the two that were the most successful and that come to my mind. Because with Victorious, it was successful in launching Ariana Grande's career. And now she's like one of the most successful pop stars on planet Earth right now. And then, of course, Big Time Rush is still popular to this very day. But they started off as a fake boy band for their TV show of the same name, but now they're an actual boy band too. And they recently got back together. So they're still popular all these years later. Like I literally had someone like one of my friends just attended their one of their East Coast concerts, and they said it was just amazing. Their childhood was right in front of them. They're all over TikTok if you have TikTok. So it's just really cool to see that you can watch these people on a TV show and then see them in real life and go, oh yeah, like I know those guys from the TV show. It's really cool. Now, Rico, do you have any idea on why this formula is so successful, or do you just want to add any thoughts to this topic?
I mean, I don't know. Like you had mentioned how Victoria sort of followed in similar footsteps as Hannah Montana. Maybe it's just me, but like in my opinion, a lot of the songs that were from Victorious actually, in my mind, sort of surpassed the songs that were on Hannah Montana. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I think I mean for me it's really hard to tell because I know there were songs from the show Hannah Montana that charted on like the pop charts. And I'm pretty sure at one point like there was a Victorious song that also did, because I remember hearing it on mainstream radio. I don't know the actual statistics of how well the songs from Victorious did. But I know for a fact for Big Time Rush, they had a lot of songs from the show on the standard pop charts as well. I remember hearing them all the time on public radio back in like 2012 or 2013. I can't remember when the show exactly came out, but then they, as a boy band, released their own album and it did very well. but yeah, I don't know why the formula is so successful, but one of my guesses is that it's very engaging and you see it like everywhere. If you see it on television, you go, oh yeah, it's on television, like I said earlier, and then it translates to real life. So it's really cool to kind of have that to go back on. And plus with Victorious, I think while Ariana Grande was still on Victorious, she did a lot of covers. And I
Yeah.
think that kind of helped with her popularity. And then seeing her back on the show, it's like, oh, that's the girl that sings the covers. And she got her help from that show. So I guess it's like seeing someone's own personal journey right before our very eyes if they have a TV show. Cause then along with the songs that you hear on the radio, you have some sort of personality to this person. So I think that's one reason why it works, or at least that's my opinion. That's my guess as well. But of course, the show that started it all was Hannah Montana. And I thoroughly enjoyed this show. I thought it was one of the best things that Disney Channel has ever produced. And like I said, it basically started this trend of like other shows picking this musical formula. And in my opinion, I don't think anything really compares to the original. Now, I'm not saying that Hannah Montana is like better than all of them, but it's just like more original. It's where it all started, and Hannah is an icon and Miley made her an icon. Miley Cyrus became an amazing icon herself. She is still doing amazing things today. She literally just released another single like this month, about a week ago, called Flowers. And it's a beautiful song. I think all of the songs that she's released after Hannah Montana are amazing. I can't really say that about any other artist. All of the songs, most of the songs that she's produced, pretty much all of them, have been absolute bangers, like her album. I didn't mean to make that a pun, but it is. It's just awesome to see like how far she's come from the show. And I love and appreciate her so much because she's been through so much. And every song that also came out of Hannah Montana was amazing. And that's all I really have to add, unless Rico, do you have any final thoughts?
This is, I guess, one small bit of trivia that I would like to add. It was an episode of That's So Raven way back in the day that was actually supposed to be a backdoor pilot for another show. That show ended up getting changed in development again, and that ended up becoming Hannah Montana. That So Raven episode that was the one where Corey won a contest to see a taping or actually appear on an episode of this sort of Happy Days parody. And in that version, it would have focused, I guess, on that child star trying to go to a regular school while balancing life as a child's TV star. And then I guess they sort of, whatever interested into a more music pop star sort of thing, and then that's how Hannah Montana came about.
Oh, interesting. I actually didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't really research like how the show came to be, or I didn't really know about it. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense now, actually. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I just think that this was an amazing show and I could go on about it forever, but there's also a lot of details, like you said, that I don't remember because the show ended when I was a freshman in high school. So I think I've covered all of the main parts of the show that are the most important. I probably left out a bunch of details, and I also cut out like a bunch of the stuff that Miley Cyrus has done over the years because it is not family friendly, unfortunately. So parents, that's something you can research on your own time, or any other adults that are listening to this podcast. But I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And that's it for now. So thank you so much for listening as always, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Lens. The intro music is Work. That's WERQ by Kevin MacLeod. It is available under a Creative Commons Attribution License and can be downloaded for free at incompetech.com. Beyond the Lens is a Recore Entertainment production.